All right. So, hi. I mean, I
Hi.
watched Mallory's Ghost and I absolutely love the film. Like, it's one film from the festival lineup that I feel I was pleasantly surprised by. So,
Thank
of
you.
course, now Mallory, if I talk about her, I mean, there is this tension, at least in the first 40, 50 minutes of the film, you know, like she's the partner of a playwright, and the playwright is very creative, and she's just working a job, right? And the journey is less about Mallory being haunted by a ghost. It's more about self-discovery, about how
Yeah,
she gets into arts, right? And she
that's right.
also wants to create, right? So do you think Mallory is somewhere or the other haunted by, of course, she's haunted by Mallory, by the ghost, but she's also haunted by this fear of being insignificant, of not being
Yeah.
able to create art, which exists on a subconscious level. It's never obvious. So,
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. And you kind of got to the heart of the
yes.
metaphor of the film and without giving too much away about the twists and turns of the plot.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that Mallory is haunted by her potential. She's haunted by this creative force that she's terrified to access, terrified to pursue. And that's kind of the journey of the film is her reconciling
Mhm.
with that aspect of herself that she has disowned and is projecting onto
Mhm.
Louise. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there is also this feeling of insecurity, and it seems like this insecurity, at least in the first 40, 45 minutes of the film, when we don't know that this is being used as a way to explore, her identity. I mean, it seems that it's very self-destructive. It almost seems like, that stereotype of being like a suspicious partner, a suspicious girlfriend. And then it seems like she would bring harm upon herself even when there is none. It's very self-destructive that way. So your thoughts on it? I mean, at least that is how I interpreted it. You can let me know how you
It's
were.
completely self-destructive. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think, that's what we touch on at the end of the film when she says, if you run from your creativity, you run from your aliveness, you will run out of your life. And that's what she's doing when she's being suspicious, paranoid, jealous. She's leaving the focus of her own life trajectory and putting all of her energy into this external problem of
Mm.
Sam and Louise. And it's a complete distraction from the actual work that needs to be done and she's only really able to do that work when she's alone, when like everyone just leaves her and she's, again, without spoiling the movie,
Yeah.
left to her own
Yeah.
devices for a
Yeah.
period of time. Yeah.
So also, I think there is a lot of element of witchcraft, voodoo. I mean, the woman who's like, she's the caretaker of that
Yeah.
estate or that writing retreat, the space, the mansion where Mallory is left to explore, to build her creative identity and to almost marinate it. So, yeah. So, I mean, what can you tell me about this element of this
Yeah.
supernatural helping Mallory in her discovery? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. The kind of magical realism element of the film developed in later versions of the script. So initially it was, there was always a ghost. There was always I thought it was, I just have fun with bending reality, going into the supernatural, playing with dimensions. Um, but it kind of took it to the next level when we decided to film in this house, and this house is so magical. The coast of Maine is so magical, and the setting just really supported this idea of the space being involved in some way in this journey. Like this is all happening within this space for a reason. And Lorna was a big part of that. And it's a little meta. Lorna, who's the kind of mentor
Yes.
sage, she's creating this metaphysical art that it doesn't really have a medium. The medium is energy and space and the spiritual. And that's also kind of what the movie is about. The movie is about, Mallory finding uh transformation really through releasing and developing her creative voice. And then also that's what we were doing in the film, exploring the psychological aspect within a film. So there are several layers to how art, honestly, like how art and magic relate to healing
Yeah.
and transformation.
Yes. Okay, another question. I mean, it almost seemed like, you mentioned the word meta. So I picked up on this meta conversation. I'll not reveal much that Mallory has with another character. And then it's almost like using relationship as a means of self-discovery. And I was like, wait a minute, like, is this foreshadowing? Is this meta? And then, of course, towards the end, it becomes clear. So again, without spoiling it, if you could tell me more about it, I mean, using relationship as a means to explore oneself, right? Like how that jealousy, paved the way almost for this kind of, self-discovery. Yeah.
Yeah, Mallory has this line at the end of the movie where she says, I love writing poems even on bad days. Like bad days are good for poems too. And I think that's encapsulating some part of the film, which is that the aspects of Mallory's psychology that she's struggling with, even though she hates it and is trying to get it out of herself, and she realizes that it's self-destructive, that's also the path. Her going into those things and sitting in it and being forced to confront it is the path to her creative self-actualization. So there's this idea that you can't really separate the two. It's not about, and I'm also a licensed therapist, so I think about this a lot with healing, that the healing isn't about cutting out or rejecting the problem. It's about going into the problem until you get to the bottom of it. And then at the bottom, you find freedom, really.
So you also mentioned that you're a psychologist, I think, a
Yeah.
therapist.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm really curious to know how did your experience help shape this film, because it's very like if like I'm so sorry I missed out on this about you. I did not know that, but
That's
now I
okay.
can figure out how
Yeah.
exactly, because now it makes a lot more sense how, like, where the nuance comes from. So again, how did your experience as a therapist help you write this film and direct it? Yeah.
So I came up with the idea before I was a therapist, but I was working on this version of the script largely when I was going through my training as a therapist and learning these different modalities of healing, where I was doing this work on myself. When you're working with clients or patients or working on yourself, you take a pattern or a problem and you kind of peel back the layers, you go into every single facet, you circle it many times. And I was really curious about healing. My whole focus, my whole life was devoted to like, what is healing and how can it be um characterized. So that definitely influenced the film, because as the film starts about jealousy and comparison, and then every kind of twist that happens in the film is just peeling back a layer of like, oh no, this isn't the whole story. What's underneath that, and what's underneath that, and what's underneath that. And then when you get to the bottom with any problem, almost any problem that you're dealing with in your life and in yourself, it lies in a relationship to yourself. That's where the work really needs to, that's where the healing really happens. So yeah, it definitely influenced the shape of the story, honestly. Yeah.
And one last question. The
Yeah.
feminist reading of the film, it's almost like, the boyfriend is really artsy, he's into art and he's writing plays. And it's almost like, I mean, was that intentional? Was that something that you were going for, the feminist commentary that, yes, it's about men being taken more seriously as playwrights? And then, of course, and for the girlfriend and for then towards the end, I mean, again, not spoiling it, I mean, they do kind of merge their creative ambition.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely in earlier drafts of the script. That was a bigger plot point that, Louise, what played by Angelica Bosboom, was more struggling with that Sam was so confident in his creativity, and she was an actress really trying to find her writing voice. And that kind of, we narrowed that down a little bit in this version of the film, but it's definitely um, a a story that I wanted to tell about female rivalry not being a plot
Mm.
device that's kind of used to enhance drama. Like I really wanted to see, okay, when two
Yes.
women are competitive with each other, that actually there's a lot of admiration and love
Yes.
there, that if they could kind of find a way to meet, connect, see those elements of each other, there would be genuine connection. Yeah, I really wanted to I wanted to show a new potential there with female.
Female solidarity.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, they do bond. I mean, at one point, and she even says, "I can't compete," and then, you know, I mean, again, not spoiling much. So again, thank you so much. I think I really love the film, and thank you so much for giving me your time. Again, I wish you all
Thank
the
you so
best, and I
much.
hope.
Thanks for your wonderful questions.
All right, thank you so much. Take care. All the best. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.